Hello and welcome to the F1 Word Live and our Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying watch-along. How are we all doing today in chat? You all look, as ever, well ready for a bit of debate. We've got lots of action coming up, of course, when the session gets going at 2. Very tight as well after all the practice results. So looking very, very exciting, particularly between those Ferraris and Red Bulls. Can they get in the mix, Red Bull? Let me know what you think. We'll be coming to you a little bit later on for your reaction to everything as well and your opinions and predictions and all of that as ever. But I do want to start the stream. I kind of need to, and I'm going to do for the next few watch-alongs, just for anybody new that's coming to these live streams, just to let you know, bit of a disclaimer, there will be no race footage. I can't do it. I can't show you anything from the track, as I keep saying. If I would, I absolutely would. I promise you that, but I can't because of the way copyright works. So I will say that for the next few watch-alongs, just a bit of a disclaimer, but it's kind of like an alternative radio commentary. We're going to get John T in a minute as well to have a chat about it all, but there is really, sadly, only one place to start. I'm sure you've all seen the news. It was all bubbling yesterday evening, quite late on actually, sort of 9 p.m. I think UK time, and that is that Force India have finally fallen into administration. It's been coming for a while. I think we can kind of all accept that, but it's a bit of a weird one. It's kind of bad news because obviously any team falling into administration is bad, but it's also got a kind of a positive side to it, which we'll talk about in a moment. It's all going to come down to who can buy them out and whatnot, but this feels very much like a step that had to happen in order to allow those buyouts to really be possible. I mean, businessmen, that's what we're talking about here. People want to make money, so at the end of the day, they're going to wait for the team to fall into administration so they can buy it just a little bit cheaper. That's all it is. And there are perspective, I think there's possibly 4 or 5 buyers that are in, so there's lots to get through. I'm going to bring Jonty in at this point because there was just so much information flying around last night to digest, a lot of speculation. I know the sick, twisted people we are, Jonty, we kind of enjoyed it last night, didn't we? Good afternoon, mate.
Good afternoon, everyone. First off, apologies if you can hear my washing machine. Everything's happening all at once here.
I love it when that happens at home. It's everything together.
Yeah, it was crazy last night. I mean, I think the first tweet came around about 8:15. So that'd be 9:15 Hungary time, and everything just exploded. It was crazy. There was allegations flying around, theories, suggestions, half a dozen different possibilities. It was insane.
Well, let's start off. Well, I mean, that's a good place to start. Those allegations that came from Rich Energy, quote unquote, but they came out and said in a very unprofessional and quite ridiculous tweet that they'd offered to put £30 million into the team. We'll talk about how they found that £30 million in a bit because I have no idea. But they put £30 million into the team, but Perez and Mercedes prevented that and others stopped that going through. First of all, as a company, whether they exist or not seems to be a question many keep asking. But as a company, that is not a very professional way to go about things, first off, is it, Jonty, at all?
No, absolutely not. I mean, we would be called out if we were being disparaging or accusatory about another YouTuber or a driver or, really coming out and attacking. So at this level, it's just unheard of. I've never seen anything like it.
It's crazy, but I think the allegation as well, to turn around and say, we've offered to put £30 million in. By the way, if you're watching TV, it is starting to chuck it down in Hungary. We've got a wet qualifying session by the look of it, so that's a positive. But to turn around and say, we've got £30 million we're going to put in, when you actually look at all their assets, John, I think they've got about £1 million in the bank or something like that. So have they just had a route around behind the back of the sofa and found a casual £29.5 million somewhere? Because I don't see where they've got it from.
Yeah, it's a very, very big sofa if they have. It was great. One of the people I and a lot follow on Twitter, Hazel Southwell, she's got a knack for digging up information. And within 3 minutes, she'd got the official 2017 tax reports for Rich Energy. And I think their net liquid assets was around about 750,000. So I don't know where this money comes from. It's imaginary.
A lot of people question just how much they exist as well, don't they? A lot of people talk about, they don't actually exist as such, or we never hear of them in the UK. Obviously, they do somewhere, and they have some ties to the team, but it's a frustrating accusation. But obviously, that all then started to build, didn't it? Whether people felt they had to come out and say something after that to maybe steady things up, but race fans started to put stuff out. I think Andrew Benson got some stuff up on Twitter as well, and it looked pretty much last night as though it was all confirmed and done and dusted. But the latest, it was all confirmed this morning by Vijay Mallya in a way that, again, wasn't particularly brilliantly done, but it's Vijay Mallya. I don't quite know what we're going to expect, but they are now officially in administration. They are being run by Jeff Rowley and James Baker, and they are the same people, I believe, John T, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're the same people that dealt with Manor and Marussia, I believe. And Caterham. So that's a positive. I know they all went under, but Force India is a damn sight more of an attractive prospect than they were. No disrespect to those teams at all, but Force India have got a lot more going from the money's there as well. But also Sergio Perez, he's got involved in this in claims for about $4 million or something like that, wasn't it, that he's claiming on? And there's unpaid engine payments to Mercedes. There's a loan as well, apparently with BWT, that's not been paid off. It's all kind of come together, and it's just, once again, without getting too political on it from the F1 side of things, it's once again highlighting that the money in F1 is so ridiculously badly distributed, because this is a team that finished 4th 2 years running.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I've been trying to sort of piece together a bit of a structure or timeline as to what's gone on. And everything I've read so far seems to indicate that it was either Perez himself or at the very least his management company, which controls all of his sponsorship interests, that kicked it all off by staking a claim for, like you said, around about $4 million. Then it was BWT that jumped in next. And apparently Mercedes then piped up saying, oh, hang on, us as well. And it all just erupted into craziness.
Is it a little bit like they've all waited for somebody else to make the first move so that they don't look like the bad guy, do you think?
It's possible. I mean, obviously, attached to this, we've got all the talk that's been going on for a few weeks about Lawrence Stroll wanting to buy the team. There's quite recent news saying that Dmitry Mazepin, the father of Nikita Mazepin, is also interested in buying it. And there was some very slim reports, but from credible sources, that Perez himself has actually got some big Mexican backing who would be interested in buying. Now, one of the theories is that he got the backing to be able to buy out the team and sort of make things in his way. And the suggestion is that he kicked all this off because, like Lawrence Stroll, he doesn't want to buy them when it's still a going concern. After they've gone into administration, you can get a much better price.
It's how a lot of people acquire F1 teams, isn't it? You could probably argue that Red Bull did the same with Jaguar when they took them on, and I guess with Minardi as well. It's, from a business perspective, it makes sense. Let them go under and then buy them for probably half the price you would have had to pay. So it makes sense in that respect. But I do want to say, weirdly, in probably people won't like this, but weirdly in defence of Sergio Perez, he has got a lot of hate this morning on social media, a lot of stick about bringing this to the court's attentions. At the end of the day, he's owed money. His backers are owed money. He's not been paid. And it's not like, this isn't that they didn't pay him on Friday so he went crying to the courts. This has been going on for months.
Yeah, I've seen the, I think I sent it to you. There was an official letter that came up. I'll just find it.
There's quite a lot of floating around, isn't there, at the minute?
Yeah, but there's an official letter regarding Brockstone Limited, which is his management company dealing with all the sponsorship interests. And the quoted language is a considerable amount of time. Now, there's no details about how long that is. It could be a month, it could be a year, it could be 2 years for all we know. And the same thing was said in the claim by Mercedes.
Do you think, because they're another lot that seem to have got a little bit of stick this morning, is Mercedes, people saying, well, they knew Force India's situation when they agreed to supply them with engines. Can they take any blame in that? Because I don't, from my point of view, in my opinion, I don't think that's fair to point the finger at Mercedes, because at the end of the day, they are supplying an engine to a team. Whether they know their financial situation or not, somebody's got to supply that team with an engine. Yeah,
that's true. And it is legally a separate company which deals with the engine supply. So it's a bit difficult for the politics of it, certainly in the pit lane. It's very hard.
One thing we do know for sure is that Vijay Mallya has pretty much decided who he wants to point the finger at, hasn't he, Jonty? He's gone with Sergio Perez and BWT. He said, let me find the quote, Force India Formula One team was placed into administration today by the court based on a petition fielded by none other than our driver, Sergio Perez. Surprisingly, BWT jumped in and claimed that their sponsorship amounts were loans, which is ridiculous as our entire car is pink with BWD branding. It's that line on Perez, none other than our very own Sergio Perez. I mean, what a person. I try so hard. You know the mood of it today, Jonty, so I try very hard not to swear on that one, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's hugely accusatory. It really is. You just don't come out and say stuff like that in a professional environment. You just don't. No one does. I wouldn't even come out like that at work. And I work in a small company that turns over $1 million a year.
I don't like the guy. I've made no secret of it on previous streams. I can't stand him. I think the way he goes about things is just completely wrong. But to do that, and that's a letter to the team, I believe, as well, isn't it? So it's gone to the whole staff. So now, throwing that around, I don't know what to say on it without getting angry again, because there are ways to deal with things, and we've seen in the past when you look at Manor, who weren't around in F1 very long, really, when you think about Marussia and things, and Caterham and HRT, none of them dealt with all of this like this. They came out, we're going to still try and race, we're going to try and sort this out. None of their owners or team principals were kicking off left, right and centre in the media. It's just the wrong way to go about it. And it makes you wonder as well, with that tweet from Rich Energy, has VJ, stuck an elbow in the ribs here? Do you fancy a few million quid just to tweet that out tonight? That is speculating big time.
Well, you never know. With how dodgy Rich Energy appears to be as a company. I mean, you look at their website and they make a big deal about being based in the UK and working on energy drinks for the last 6 years. I have never seen a Rich Energy drink for sale in the UK. So, there's something dodgy there.
As far as I've never seen them either. And when I was at Silverstone, they were hyping, ironically, up the fact that the hype energy drinks were going to be on sale in the UK soon. So the fact that Rich Energy haven't, I mean, it's just it's very odd. But I mean, I said at the start, there are positives to take from it. It looks as though they are going to get bought out. There's 4 or 5 people in for them. So I'd say, Jonty, one of those will get a deal done to save them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It certainly looks that way. Like we said, with Lawrence Stroll and Dimitri Mazepin and a few others, even the whole possibility of Mercedes themselves, as opposed to Williams for the B team.
We'll get on to speculate. I mean, actually, no, we'll do it now. Who do you think is the most likely to do it? Lawrence Stroll, of course, has been linked with this massively over the last, 6 weeks? Maybe something like that seems to be, maybe even longer, just constantly. And then there's the Mercedes ties. They perhaps look the most likely to happen, but it seems like a lot of people are throwing their hat into the ring. Who do you think is most likely to take control of that team after the administrators, of course?
We're getting into very much pure conjecture here, but you have to think there's been talk for quite a while of Ocon going to Renault, which would leave a seat at Force India. And if Lawrence Stroll's already showing that interest in the team, it stands to completely logical reason that Lance would get a drive. There's no way he wouldn't. I'm paying for everything. You let my son drive. Which means Perez is still there. It wouldn't take a few too many phone calls between Lawrence and Sergio's management to say, look, if he gets this started, team goes under, costs less for me to buy, he then stays in the team, etc., etc.
Well, I mean, you say that on Perez, but the speculation this morning, and it's in something obviously you sent me as well, so you'll know what I'm talking about, but the speculation this morning is that Stroll could make the switch to Force India for Belgium, is one rumour going around. There's also talk that Sainz will be going to McLaren to replace Van Dorn before Belgium. That's going to see Russell go to Williams and Sainz go to McLaren and Ocon go to Renault. And it's this driver market for next year could all start happening in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's the rumours flying around now are crazy. And it looks as though it's gone from Hamilton holding the key to Ricciardo to holding the key to now Force India holding the key as to what they're going to do.
Yeah, it's bonkers. It really is. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite so dramatic. I mean, we've seen lots and lots of teams come and go. Some have gone in quite public and spectacular circumstances. But with all this to-ing and fro-ing and the chances of up to 6 or 7 drivers moving around, it's going to be great to do the coverage for, let's be honest.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic, and we love to speculate, and I'm just trying to look for other rumours. Russell to Williams, I think I've already mentioned that one. That's one that would happen if Stroll went to Force India, and I don't know how much to read into it. It could well be a case of if Van Dorn goes, then McLaren will try and make that move for Sainz, which means that Renault are going to have to replace him with somebody, and they want Ocon. So it may well just be that it's not Force India's move that results in things changing. It could be, because there's talk now of Van Dorn getting dropped, which I know I'm not particularly pleased about. I think he should be given to the end of the season, same with Hartley, but at the end of the day, F1's a ruthless sport, isn't it? So that's just the way it's always been. But just one move could trigger an entire midfield shift. And there's even talk of Perez going to Haas and partnering Leclerc next year, if not before.
That I couldn't see happening. One of the big reasons that Grosjean has been able to stick around at Haas despite the issues he's been having is that a lot of people know and have known for decades that Gene Haas is very big on loyalty. He rewards those who stick with him. And with all of this coming out between Perez and Force India, there is no way in hell he would have Perez in his car.
Absolutely, I can't see it, to be honest. And also, there's talk of Magnussen not staying at Haas, which, given the terrible year he had last year, I think it's ironic that he has a good year this year and loses his seat, but kept it last year. But anyway, that's Formula One. It sometimes goes that way. But obviously, we need to get on to qualifying. We're about 13 or so minutes away now. So, very quickly before we get on to talking about quali, are you fairly confident that Force India will still be around in some guise by the time we get to Spa?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's good. I'd agree. I think there'll be something done. And hopefully we don't see this every 6 months, because obviously there's a lot of teams that are going to struggle to get to 2021 at this rate. But fingers crossed everything gets sorted. I'm pretty confident they will at Force India. They're a really good bunch of people. They've got a lot of history in the sport in many of their different names. And hopefully they'll survive, and I'm pretty confident they will do. It is absolutely chucking it down, Jonty, at the Hungaroring at the moment. Ted getting soaked on the Sky coverage. This plays very much into Red Bull's hands. There was a lot of talk, wasn't there, about how close they are to Ferrari. Can they take the fight? Christian Horner saying, the better extra engine modes of Ferrari will make the difference. This levels it out completely, and they could be favourites for pole now. Oh,
yeah, very much. This is Hungary. I don't care how much better your engine modes are, it's not going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, I generally agree with that. I think Ferrari have got the edge in terms of pace. We saw it in practice, but could Max Verstappen do it? Break that record for youngest ever pole sitter? Because he's looked stellar, not just this weekend, but for the last few weekends, really, to be fair to him.
Yeah, he's certainly got a shot at it. You would have to think Ricciardo's very hungry for it with the run of bad reliability he's had and bad luck. And after the FP3, I can't see Mercedes having an answer for the other two. That car was an absolute dog for both of them all the way through it. Even though Bottas put in a decent time, you had to struggle like hell for it.
Historically, Mercedes has struggled, haven't they? Particularly in the hybrid era. I know they had their dominance there in the past. I think 2015, I think they won there. But you look back and it's Ferrari have gone well, Red Bull have gone well. It's not really a Mercedes track, and they've been concerned about that all week. And that's, from a neutral perspective, it's going to make it interesting because you've got two very quick cars, although not a Mercedes track, two very quick cars possibly at, you could argue, out of position on the third row of the grid. And when it comes to Q2 as well, we were discussing this earlier, weren't we? When it comes to Q2 later on, they're possibly in a position where they can't gamble on the soft tyre like Ferrari and Red Bull can.
Yeah, well, this is what we were chatting about in messages earlier. With how rough that Mercedes is, even with Hamilton being able to pull out the extra few tenths that he can on one lap, I cannot see Mercedes being any higher than the third row.
It's a big ask, isn't it? Given how things were, and as far as I know, no damage to Bottas's car either after that contact. But they just looked all over the place. But to be honest, just looking at some replays on Sky now, and I was still going to mention it anyway, but no cars looked particularly 100% on rails, has it, this weekend?
No, none of them. Not even the Red Bull through the tight stuff. There's been a little bit of play there that Verstappen in particular has had to fight against, but he's been using it quite well. Ricciardo's had to fight it a bit more, and it hasn't really suited him. He tends to be quite smooth.
Who do you think is going to surprise this session, putting you on the spot? Now we've got a bit of rain.
Good question. Well, Stroll's got to get a mention. Look at what he did in Monza last year. That chance has got to be there.
That's a good point. I mean, the thing is, though, without sounding like we're bashing them again, we need to stop this. Without sounding like we're bashing Williams again, what's the surprise for Stroll? Because we were all very complimentary of Sirotkin for qualifying 12th last week. So is that sort of where you see Stroll would be a really good session for him?
Yeah, 12th, 13th could really make good strides for them. Especially being Hungary, we know it's notoriously difficult to overtake here. You know, before qualifying starts, is it before qualifying or the end of FP3 where Parc Fermé comes into force?
I'm sure it's the start of qualifying, yeah, at the start.
You know, there is a chance, a smaller one, but still a chance of some rain tomorrow. One of the midfield teams just takes a gamble, clicks a few bits more downforce on to go for a full wet setup. Surprises the front ones.
I'm going to say, as a surprise, Alonso. It might sound a bit weird because, you know, Alonso doing well in a wet qualifying maybe isn't a surprise, but where that McLaren is at the moment, you would say 7th best on the grid, behind, it depends on what day Force India you're having, but sort of 6th or 7th on the grid, certainly behind Haas and Renault. I think Alonso could get in the mix for Q3 if we've got a wet session. In fact, I'd probably say he will do.
Yeah, but would Alonso being able to perform better when it's more on the driver be a surprise?
Yeah, true. That's a fair point. Let me know in chat who you think is going to surprise us in this session, and also who you think is going to get pole. We'll do that in just a moment as well. Something to tidy up from last week, which is Sean versus Jonty. We didn't get it done last week because I can't remember why. I think I just forgot in the end, but it was 5-5 when we arrived at Germany, and astonishingly, you're going to think you've got the lead here, Jonty, but actually we're 6 apiece, mate.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think the reason we missed it is we were too busy enjoying ourselves chatting with Jane Bear.
Yeah, that's gone down very well as well. People are very happy. In fact, I think they kind of want me to hand the channel over to him. But I think he's got one that's doing a little bit better than mine, so I don't think he'd be interested in that. And I don't want to give it away either, I should say. But yeah, 6 apiece on that. Again, not a great weekend for us. So yeah, I can't remember what our predictions are for this weekend. You'll see them tomorrow in the watch-along. But I think we've both gone... I think I've gone Vettel for pole. I've got a feeling you went Verstappen for pole. I'm not 100% though.
No, I can't remember. But I've got all the same in my fantasy team that's locked in now, so I can revert to that.
Yeah, just going to take a couple from chat very quickly. Iceman P2 says Kenny James. Raikkonen pole, says Lassie. Let's have a look through. Good afternoon, good morning from Canada. Hello, good afternoon over here. So thanks for joining us. 3rd biggest demographic, I think, Canada for the channel. So if you are Canadian, say hi in the chat. Van Dorn to Q3, says Alexander. Is that... I suppose if Alonso could surprise, and technically Van Dorn, he needs a good weekend, but it's all down to whether they've sorted those downforce issues, isn't it, really?
Yeah, very much so. I don't think that's going to be enough.
Alonso pole, says Quad Hawk. That would be a surprise. Verstappen pole, says Kenny James. I think Verstappen's got a great chance here. Rain is still coming down. Verstappen's already been over to have a look at the track. Leclerc could pull off a surprising session, says Vib Howe. Yeah, absolutely. Leclerc, yeah. You run out of things to say about him. He's been brilliant this season. Grosjean, best of the rest. He had a good weekend in Germany, so great. Did you see that comeback on his last couple of laps, Jonty? 4 places in a few laps? I mean, that was phenomenal at the end. Great to watch on board.
Oh, yeah, it was absolutely stunning drive. He really pulled it out when it mattered. And that's exactly what he needed, because he'd done so well and then threw it away. So he's a bit up and down, but it's in the right direction.
Yeah. I hope he can keep it up. I really do, because it's a weird one with Grosjean. Didn't like him when he was at Lotus in the early years of his career. Really like him now. I think he's a completely different driver. Yes, he's making the mistakes, but completely different guy. Lewis, surprise front row. That would be a surprise given how they were this morning, but you can never write off Mercedes. Sam, Pierre Gasly, pole. Christoph says the intro is on. Oh, you think that's an intro? You give it a minute, mate. You wait till you see the dog rubbish I've come up with. Daniel Pole, a lot of people saying Red Bull have got a shout. Force India, I think, obviously let me know if you feel different in the chat, but I think, John T, a lot of people this weekend now are going to be cheering Force India on big time.
Oh, yeah, I certainly hope so. They've had so much support all over Twitter. It's been actually really great to see. No one's really been negative towards them. They've all been negative towards the people involved in the legal side. But the team itself, they're just getting love, and it is great to see. Outside chance of Q3?
Yeah.
Probably between 11th to 14th, realistically.
Based on this morning, if either driver's going to do it, it will be Ocon, because Perez didn't look on it this morning. Whether his mind's elsewhere, we can only speculate. A lot of people as well saying Vettel. I think I put Vettel down. I think he's just going to edge it. Just a replay of the Schumacher Barrichello incident against the pit wall. That always makes me cringe when I see that on TV. So it is time to stop talking all about this and stop speculating. Brace yourself, people. It is time for the Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying watch-along. Right then, there is your timing screen for the watch along. I told you that was going to be cheesy. That was terrible. I was quite proud of that when I made it, and now looking back, it's like, interesting. But the rain, is it still falling? Looks like it might be over the Hungaroring, so it's all going to be, as we've been saying, swinging towards Red Bull, I would say. So, yeah, I'm quite looking forward to this, Jonty. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, this could well be one of the more entertaining quali sessions that we've had for a while.
Extra Christo says V8. No, mate, V10. If I'm going to do it, I'll do it properly with the swoosh, don't we, John C? We don't. You supplied that for me, didn't you, mate? Yeah,
absolutely. That is from, I actually read that was recorded on the run up to and around 130R.
Them were the days. Let's not pipe and slippers before much longer if we're not careful. The rain appears to have eased off and the track's looking a little bit drier than I thought it was. They are drying the pit lane out at the moment, but the clouds are still rolling in. So I think we are looking... It's going to be a mixed session. What I like, if we have to have rain at the start of qualifying, I don't know if you're the same, John C. I want it to dry out as each session goes on. It's always nice when you get a downpour at the start of Q1 and then last man across the line is the one that is the fastest.
Yeah, it keeps everyone on their toes. No one can just do a time and sit there and wait. They've all got to be on it all the time.
It's great to see. It just makes for a much more exciting qualifying session. But I think I would expect pretty much everybody will be straight out just in case there is more rain on the horizon, because these could well be the worst conditions of the day, but they could also be the best conditions of the day.
Yeah, they really could. I mean, pit lane's certainly wet enough. And around the track, there are going to be a few places that will catch people out. So I can't decide if we want more or not now.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because, like I say, you like the idea of drivers being... the idea of, I don't know, a Stroll, as an example, to be across the line, last man to set a time, and he just sneaks into 14th place and makes it into Q2, and then you get a downpour... at the start of Q2. I'm asking for too much now, aren't I? Rain at the start of every single qualifier session would be absolutely great. Leclerc is going to be first man on track. As far as I can see, everybody understandably going for the inters to the track is probably going to be fairly wet, but it's still hot in Hungary, as far as I've seen from all the graphics and whatnot. So that track will dry very quickly. So we could well see people in for... Yeah, everybody's queuing. We could well see people in very quickly for slicks, and taking that gamble, you know, you can, with it not being too hot and with the track a bit damp, you can run them a little bit longer, can't you?
Yeah, it's all a case of how quickly it gets a proper dry line.
Sorry, just watch it, just intrigued as to why the focus was on Hamilton there, but he's literally just exiting the pit lane. But look, the way they were focusing on him, it looked like there was something up, but no. This is going to be...
Sorry, just reminded myself quickly off F1 topic. Anyone who saw it or heard about it on Twitter from the Super Trofeo race this morning, driver and all the marshals are okay. Just meant to mention it earlier, so got it out of the way.
No, that's fine, mate. I forgot to mention it as well. I tell you, that was horrible to watch. I've never gasped that loud. That was shocking. But they're all... It sounds bad. I don't mean this to sound flippant, but they're all going to live. They're all going to survive. But there are some injuries there, so obviously we wish them all the best. Reports of more rain coming in from turn 14 just been given over Lewis Hamilton's team radio. So we are going to get a mixed session now in terms of wet weather, and these could be the best conditions. This is crazy. So it's good in a way because we get a little bit of unpredictability. Those who go well in the wet, Red Bull, for example, are going to look good. The problem is, though, if the rain comes in, we may only get a couple of laps from each driver, and then we're going to have to sit and wait for the session to finish off for 10 or 12 minutes, which isn't always great. But first man to go across the line is Valtteri Bottas to start his flying lap. He's got Leclerc, I believe that's Leclerc. Yes, it is, going in behind him. So fair bit of spray. It looks... It's wet. I wouldn't say it's not soaking, but it is wet. A little bit of, fair bit of spray. Raikkonen. Team radio. It's so slow. So Raikkonen's reporting dry turns 6 and 7. So this is just going to ebb and flow as the session goes on now. But you've got Hamilton's lot saying rain in from turn 14. Raikkonen saying we're dry at 6 and 7. Who knows, Jonty? This could be anybody's today. And Mercedes, with how well Lewis Hamilton goes in the wet, could spring a big surprise come Q3.
Yeah, it really could. It's certainly suiting his skills. But, the Red Bull's already so quick on high aero tracks. Throw the rain in there. It's got to be an advantage for them.
It's brilliant for us. Whatever happens, it's brilliant for us. I've got live timing as well. That's well ahead of the TV stream, I have to say. So God knows how far ahead it is for you, John. It's probably about a week and a half, isn't it? Because you're still on Sky Go this week, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Bottas has just done Sector 1, so...
Bottas has just come round to complete his lap. Goes across the line on a 1:27.245. So we are well off the pace this morning, obviously. That is an obvious statement. Lewis Hamilton tiptoeing around that final corner. Just about, he's going to be the next man. Leclerc does a 29 flat, so he's 1.8 off the pace of Valtteri Bottas. Lewis Hamilton a 1:26.8. So that is a fair whack quicker than his teammate for nearly 4/10. Raikkonen coming across the line. He does a 25.9, 8/10 quicker than Lewis Hamilton. I know it's going to ebb and flow, but that is huge. Hulkenberg goes third ahead of Bottas on a 27.1. Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. We'll have this. Ocon P6, 29.3. Just wait and see what Vettel does. He's not set a time as of yet. Martin Brundle in commentary summing it up perfectly. It is all about being on the right tyre at the right time. This is the best bit about these wet, dry qualifyings, isn't it, John T? Timing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If they don't get it absolutely spot on, you've got the dry parts that will just burn the tyres up in seconds, and then there'll be nothing left when they get to the wet bits. This isn't about just going the fastest. This is about going the smartest.
Just look at this. Obviously, if you're watching this on TV or you're watching the graphics on screen, they're provided, by the way, from Planet F1. I forgot to mention that. Apologies, guys, but thank you very much for that. Do not pay too much attention to these times because this is going to change so much if it dries up. So At the minute, though, Kimi's fastest, 0.3 quicker than Sebastian Vettel, who's just done that lap. He did a 26.3 versus Raikkonen's 25.9. So Raikkonen looking good. Very early days, and like I say, don't pay a huge amount of attention to these just yet, but a really positive start to the session. But as we know, Jonty, Kimi tends to bin it in Q3 anyway, doesn't he, on his last flying run? So
always sector 3, every time.
Renault looked good. Again, like I keep saying, early days, but Renault looked good. Hulkenberg P4, 1.1 off Raikkonen. Sainz P6, 1.5 off. Hartley 7th, but well off the pace, 2.3. So traffic's going to be a big issue, as Max Verstappen's about to find out with a very slow McLaren just jumping out of the way there. That wasn't meant to be a joke about a very slow McLaren. Might have sounded a bit Larry, but he wasn't supposed to do. Where have we got any surprises at the minute? Verstappen, the only man yet to set a time. Alonso goes P7 with his lap of 28.1. So he could really mix things up. Van Dorn well off the pace, his teammate down in 17th, but Verstappen only 6th. Now, he did have traffic on that lap, and it is early days yet, and Nat Williams is well in his way. Leclerc sliding it on the exit of the chicane there. Great to see. A guy that is highly rated, of course. We're big fans of Leclerc, aren't we, Jonty?
Yeah, but it just goes to show what we've been saying about right tyre, right time, and how much the track evolves. At the exact point Leclerc became 13th, 34 seconds beforehand, he was second.
Very good, yeah. That's when you know somebody's got talent, and that talent has arrived, hasn't it? Vettel, by the way, saying that they're not far off dries. So it could well be that they come in, stick some slicks on, bang a lap in, and then it absolutely chucks it down. And if somebody like a Stroll or a Van Dorn or an Ericsson puts those on, sets a lap on a drying track, and then the rain falls, they could be sitting very pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. Then it doesn't matter what happens for the rest of the session. If just a few of the top runners get caught out, we've got a very interesting race.
Especially around Hungary, not easy to overtake as well, is it? You know, obviously Mercedes can come well through the field, so can Ferrari. They've got that extra pace and over the rest of the grid, but a track where it's difficult to overtake, that's not going to be as easy as Silverstone and Hockenheim or Vettel in France, for example, is it?
No, exactly. And this stage right now is so critical because they're all still on the inters, but it's quite obviously getting dry. When those inters burn up, they become even worse than cold slicks. And you could throw it off with no warning whatsoever.
Well, they're all coming in now for ultra soft tyres. Ericsson's made the switch. I think the timing screens say Hulkenberg, Sainz, Hartley, and Magnussen have put the ultra softs on, and so has Ocon. So lots of people coming in and switching now. So those teams, it's a flash of lightning there as well. It's worth it for a Williams, isn't it? Just to take that gamble, because they're going to be last anyway, so they may as well just take a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with what looks like a lot of the front runners still doing laps.
The rain is definitely rolling in.
Those midfield and backmarker guys can get out and get a lap in. The guys at the front are in trouble. It won't happen, but my God, it'd be good, wouldn't it?
Why you say that all of those are now out on the ultra soft tyres. They're going to go for this with 9 minutes to go. Ferrari are saying rain in the next minute or two, and we've got flashes of lightning over the circuit, and none of the top 3 teams have pitted for ultra softs yet. It could happen.
This could get messy.
I might want to change my prediction to an Ericsson poll. That'll set Discord off quite nicely, won't it? Definitely. But I think Renault surprised me so far in this session. Again, it's going to ebb and flow so much, but they've been good this weekend, and they look on it as well in this session with that engine just cranked up a little bit more. So hopefully Nico Hulkenberg and Carlos Sainz are going to have some good results this weekend. Hopefully get started up well on the grid, and then pick up some big points tomorrow in that fight for 4th place. Sainz has got a little bit of traffic. That's a Williams, not really sure where to go, but he's down the inside. And the fastest Sector 2, Jonty, is Carlos Sainz on a 28 flat. And I'm just checking out Raikkonen in for Ultras. So Sainz is going to go quickest here quite comfortably. Raikkonen's pitted for Ultras. Verstappen, Hamilton, there, Bottas as well. Vettel has not pitted as yet. That's a little bit crazy because the rain will come in and Sainz does go fastest, but that's beaten by Kevin Magnussen on a 22.4.
It only needs to rain on one corner and the slick guys are stuffed.
This is crazy. This is absolutely... This could go... Can I just say this is a neutral? And I'm sorry if you're a Hamilton or a Vettel fan or a Verstappen fan. Rain now. Before they can get a lap in, let's have the likes of Magnussen and Sainz and co. right up there scrapping for a Q3 spot and maybe even pole if the big boys fall out in Q1.
Yeah, no scarlet, silver, or dark blue on the front 3 rows would be amazing.
It's not going to happen, is it? we could dream.
No,
That's what we do, Jonty. We dream about these things. So nothing wrong with that. Alonso twitching all over the place, but he's on a lap. He is coming through that first sector now. Fastest of all, Hulkenberg, 121.7, 7/10 on Magnussen. So the circuit is getting quicker. Alonso was quickest in the first sector. Whether he's still got that time or not, I can't quite see. Timing screens going absolutely crazy at the moment. Kimi Räikkönen on his team radio saying it is raining again. Ericsson goes blipping too.
Come on, a colossal downpour right now.
There are spots of rain on Alonso's camera, so it looks as though it's raining. Räikkönen, well, at the moment, if you're just tuning in, the running order is Hulkenberg, Ericsson, Magnussen, Sainz, Stroll, Sirotkin, Ocon, Vettel, Räikkönen, Ricciardo, Verstappen. And going out are Hartley, Grosjean, Perez, Leclerc and Van Dorn. Leclerc would be a huge surprise as Alonso goes P2.
You love sessions like this when you don't know what's going to happen.
You just don't know, do you? I think Raikkonen's okay, though. Kimi should get through and goes fastest, I think. Vettel just starting his lap as the rain's falling. Hamilton out, Bottas out, Gasly and Hartley, Verstappen as well as it stands. Ricciardo is the driver at risk. Oh, Ricciardo, Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Gasly. Bottas goes second, 21 flat. Raikkonen's fastest, 19.8. This is chaos. I have newfound respect for Crofty, Jonty. This is not easy to keep up with, mate.
Yeah, how do you think I feel when I'm so far behind?
I'm in the future to you, mate. It's brilliant. Hamilton goes second, well off Raikkonen's pace. Half a second. Verstappen, 120.2, moves into second place as well. So all that excitement has fallen away. But Sainz goes quicker, so the track is still speeding up. The conditions are getting better, and we may still get some surprises. Not quite the surprises we might have got 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, they've got a lap of heat into those tyres. With the rain coming down, even a little bit, it will cause the temperatures to drop very, very easily. This is not over.
This is, this could go either way. Even if the top 3 go through, we could see some surprise midfield exits from Q1.
Yeah, all we want now is torrential downpour or anyone to bin it.
Vettel rounds that final corner. What can he do? Goes P3. 1.4 off his teammate. Wow.
Yeah.
Kimi. Well, we could be in for a surprise. Nothing against Kimi Räikkönen at all, but that would be a surprise given that Vettel was pretty much everyone's favourite yesterday for pole and coming into this weekend. Max Verstappen looks set to go P2, might get P1 possibly. No, P2 for Verstappen. Hamilton moves up to 3, which is 4th. I'm just looking at that bottom 5. We've got Leclerc, Perez, Sirotkin, Ocon, and Daniel Ricciardo out as it stands. Ricciardo crosses the line, only goes 17th.
Oh dear.
4.3 seconds off the pace. It must be raining out there. He's on the soft tyres as well. Why is he on the softs?
Yeah, you can't afford to take that risk.
Well, that can't be a strategy call.
No, because the strategy doesn't matter until Q2.
Ocon goes P10. Fantastic for Force India. Stroll is P13. He was one that you were sort of looking at to watch for this session, Jonty. So, just looking at Perez now, P19. Alonso goes 5th.
I don't understand what's happening to the track. It's going faster and slower all the time.
Look, you'll find out in a minute, mate, but Grosjean's just gone second, 7 100ths off Kimi Räikkönen. I mean, it's so unpredictable. Perez goes P10. Ocon, who just went P10, is now P14. Leclerc crosses the line. He goes into P8. Hartley across goes 5th. This is going to come down to last across the line, everybody. This is exactly what's going to happen. Last across the line. will survive at the minute. Ricciardo, though, really needs to pull a lap out. Goes across the line. Only P12. That's not enough. Vettel, P14.
Have I caught something here? Are the midfield guys just cranked on a bit more downforce to suit the wet track? Or at least a damp track?
Well, there's that, and then obviously they put their tyres on earlier, so they're warmer, aren't they? So as the track gets quicker, they're going to get quicker with it because their tyres are up to temperature, whereas Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Raikkonen are a lap behind, and Vettel's a couple of laps behind.
You look through the official timing screens now, everything that everyone does almost is green.
Vettel goes across the line 8/10 quicker than Kimi Raikkonen, so he's found some pace finally. That soon changed because Kimi Raikkonen's toppled him now. Grosjean's still P3. This is all over the place, and it's brilliant. I hope it comes across that I'm confused as hell on this on this commentary, because I'm just as stunned as everybody. I can see chat are loving it, absolutely loving this session. So far, we want this through the whole thing, please, not just for Q1.
Oh, I'd love to be sat in a car listening to us on this, just wondering what the hell is going on.
It'll be what the hell's going on or shut the hell up. It'll be one of the two. You know how we tend to get it in comments, mate. But I have to say, Daniel Ricciardo, P14 on the soft tyre. I can't see him getting through. Why has he gone on softs?
No, it's a really bad call by Red Bull. Massive mistake. They're always going to be harder to warm up than the Ultras.
We are well inside the last 2 minutes now. Hamilton currently quickest. Vettel asking if there's more rain. Ferrari saying no. Marcus Ericsson goes P7. Yes, Marcus Ericsson, that's the guy in the Sauber. He's gone P7. Grosjean's 6th at the moment. Hulkenberg goes P5. Just over a minute to go. Daniel Ricciardo, he's in the drop zone. He needs this, but he's still on a soft tyre.
Oh, as soon as they got to about 3.5 minutes left, that's it. He's stuck.
I can't get over that. Alonso goes P6. He could be one to keep an eye on. Lance Stroll down in 19th. The other one we were sort of saying watching this session, but this could change. This could change big time. Grosjean P5. No, I suppose Ricciardo not there. That is a surprise. Just waiting for Ricciardo's middle sector time, but I don't think it's very good. He's half a second up on Magnussen for the drop zone, so he might. Sirotkin's just gone 15th. This is going to be right down to the wire now. 35 seconds to go on the TV clock, but that's different on your timing screens if you're watching on there. And I'm a little bit further behind as well. So Ricciardo only 13th, the 1:18.80 will get another run, but it is his last chance now. At the minute, we are losing Perez. No, we're not. Hartley, Perez, Sirotkin, Magnussen, and Ocon. Gasly is a driver at risk. Leclerc only 14th, will get another run as well. The twitching. The twitching on the Sauber pit wall. Marcus Ericsson still P10. He might well get through from there, Jonty.
Yeah, it looks like he certainly could. The Force Indies haven't got an answer.
Watching the timing screen, it's just lighting up left, right and centre. This is so difficult to keep on top of. Apologies if we're a bit all over the place. I kind of hope it does settle down a little bit at some point. But Carlos Sainz moves up into P5. The checkered flag is flying, so this is the last runs then. Pierre Gasly coming to the line. Is he going to get across and through? Pierre Gasly goes P11. That would see him through. Vettel goes fastest 16.666. Hope that's not an omen for him for the rest of the weekend. Daniel Ricciardo pushing hard. He needs a good lap, but he is 1.5 seconds off Vettel's time, which would put him around about P3 at the minute, but I don't see him keeping that up through the rest of the lap on the soft tyres. Still waiting for everyone to cross the line. Ricciardo's ground. Bottas goes P2. He was safely through anyway, so was Hamilton. Verstappen now goes second. Across the line they come. Daniel Ricciardo goes P11. That should be enough. Ocon comes across the line as well. He only goes 17th. Leclerc coming through as well. He goes to P16. 17 for Leclerc. Magnussen sneaks through. I think that's it. And we have lost Stoffel Van Dorn, Charles Leclerc, Esteban Ocon, Sergio Perez, and Sergei Sirotkin. Jonty, Stroll and Alonso both through. We may have caused something right for a change.
Yeah, and for a while, Stroll was running up there in P8, P9. Yeah. What a crazy session that was.
Well, I mean, Sainz was topping the session for multiple times during that. That was... I was just looking at Vettel, Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Raikkonen, Sainz, Grosjean, Hulkenberg, Alonso, Magnussen, Hartley, Ricciardo, Stroll, Gasly, Ericsson. I'd take that grid.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting grid.
Verstappen on the front row alongside Vettel, maybe a good start from him. Could mix it up, but Force India, their weekend of misery continues, unfortunately. I'm stunned by Charles Leclerc. Really surprised that he's down in 17th.
Yeah, that's a surprise. I've been trying to think back to his F2 last year and GB3 the year before about his performance in wet races, and I can't remember any because there wasn't all that many wet races.
I tell you what, there is, out of everybody on that grid right now, the man that is probably breathing the biggest sigh of relief is Daniel Ricciardo. He's got through on the soft tyre in P12. That, one lockup, one missed apex, and that could well have been him out in Q1. A track where Red Bull should be dominating, really.
Yeah, and also taking that kind of risk, you've got to think, with a track being so twitchy, everyone having trouble with it, someone bins it, red flag, you're done.
Right, before I come to take some of your comments, just give you a quick recap to try and understand what just happened there. But Sebastian Vettel topped the first qualifying session of 1:16.666, 2.5 tenths quicker. Hamilton complaining on the radio there is something hanging off his car, but Verstappen second, 2.5 tenths back. Bottas third, Hamilton fourth, nearly 7.5 tenths off the pace. Raikkonen fifth, Sainz did well in sixth. I thought he was going to top the session at one point, but it just was all over the place. Grosjean seventh, Hulkenberg eighth, Alonso very strong in ninth place. We know that McLaren is much better on race pace anyway, so whatever he does in qualifying is a huge bonus now. Kevin Magnussen P10, Hartley 11th, Ricciardo just through in 12th, Stroll brilliant for him in 13th, Gasly 14th, Ericsson got through as well in 15th, but the 5 that drop out, Stoffel, Van Dorn again, Charles Leclerc, big surprise, Ocon and Perez as well. We were talking about fringes of the top 10 today, and that's not going to happen, and Sergei Sorokin brings up the rear in 20th, but only a 10th behind Sergio Perez, in fairness to him, and only half a second, maybe a little bit more, from getting through into Q2, so I mean, Leclerc's a surprise. I'd probably say the Force Indies as well, Jonty, but Van Dorn, the pressure's on him this weekend, and he's, they're trying to sort this car out, and if he's still got the same problems, I worry for him. This is his last real chance to show them, because even if they don't drop him after the summer break, this could make their mind up for next season.
Yeah, it really could, and it's a shame that he's been fighting so hard and getting nothing for it. But looking ahead, this still isn't done, because all that weather's still around everywhere. It could come and go as it pleases.
This is going to get very exciting. I think let's have a nice, exciting Q2, because it's all right having rain in Q3, but really you want it in Q2 so we get a few surprise runs at the top 10, don't we, really? But I guess we'll just take a couple of your comments. Well done, Hartley. Yeah, absolutely great session from him so far. Hopefully he'll get through. A lot of love for Ericsson, obviously. If you're new to the channel, head on over to Discord and check us out there. It will all be explained, I'm sure, by one of the mods, but there's a lot of love for our King Marcus of Ericsson over there. I love this quali, says Felix. Absolutely brilliant so far. Both Toro Rossos through. That's great to see. Schumacher will win with Salo in second. I have to just say, by the way, I did tweet it out. Mick Schumacher getting his first win in Euro F3 today. As a proper big Schumacher fanboy in the day, I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit emotional on that one, Jonty.
Yeah, me too. And you got a feeling of that in his face, because it was at Spa where Michael took his first Formula One win. It was a special moment, and one hell of a crazy overtake through Eau Rouge to make it happen.
We'll just say as well, thank you to everyone who subscribed during the stream. We've just ticked over 42,000 subscribers. I still can't believe I'm saying that. So if you are watching the first time, don't forget to subscribe. There is tons of content coming up over this weekend. And I know it's a summer break coming up, but we will not be stopping here. We're going to have you covered for that 4-week period as ever, just like we did all winter. That was a long winter, thinking back now, Jonty, to be honest.
I think I'm most impressed with the fact that we've finally ticked over a milestone whilst on. It's always been like 2 minutes before or a minute after. So that's nice.
That's true, because we ticked over to the 20,000 mark 15 minutes or so before the live stream that I did for qualifying in Australia, which was on my birthday as well. So it was like, oh, couldn't you have waited 15 minutes?
Oh, no, it's great. It's great to see the channel expanding and just growing all the time, especially with all these great guys coming to watch us and joining in with the chat, because it always ends up in some kind of calamity, and it's great fun.
Oh yeah, we try to stay professional, but we usually mess things up as well. But everyone coming out now for Q2, understandably everybody queuing, but Vettel on the Inters, which is a surprise. Everybody else on ultra softs.
What?
Oh, it's Gasly on wets all over again, John T. That had us last week, didn't it?
Oh, I still feel so gutted for him. We all saw how crazy the rain was, like a minute after the race. I mean, there was a biblical deluge on them on the podium. If that had come 10 minutes earlier, Gasly would have won.
Oh, Hulkenberg as well. He was sat P5 on the Inters, wasn't he? And everybody else had him on the dry. So if they'd have all had to pit, Hulkenberg would have won it. But Hamilton getting told on his team radio there may be rain in the last sector, so maybe Ferrari are preempting that. But that, I would imagine that's a used set of Inters, John T. I can't see them putting a fresh set on a drying track.
No, because there's that slight outside risk of rain tomorrow and a slightly bigger risk of rain Q3. They need to keep a fresh set for that. No, we're not saying Gasly is wet. He was last week.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, I should have clarified that. But it's wet. It's wet in that last part of the middle sector. Oh, and that Red Bull nearly went round. Oh, that is very wet. Everybody on slick struggling. So maybe Ferrari have played one here, Jonty, because if the rain's starting to come down, as Vettel goes purple by a mile, in that it is chucking it down. Yeah, Vettel may well have called this, Jonty. I know he would have got through anyway, probably, but he might just be about to set a lap that sees him through comfortably, because obviously that track's just going to get wetter.
Yeah. Who else was on the Inters?
Nobody. Oh, nobody. No, Magnussen just coming in and changing now. Everybody pitting to change the intermediates. He was the only one to go out on the Inters. Great call from Ferrari.
Yeah, very much so. That was very clever. I'm surprised none of the midfield runners who weren't quite queued up yet didn't see that and think, oh, maybe we should do the same. I certainly would have.
Just watching the timing screens. It's kind of difficult in these early stages of the session, which is why I have this respect for Crofty and for Martin Brundle doing it all the time, because I'm watching the timing screens going, Vettel's purple in the first. Well, of course he's the only one to set a time. So it's kind of difficult to get exciting, but Vettel is going to be the first man to set a lap time. Everybody pitting for Inters. Hulkenberg's still on the dries, but I'm assuming, and Raikkonen, but I'm assuming they're going to pit. They must be in the pits. There's no way Ferrari are going to gamble with Raikkonen after the pace he's shown in Q1.
Yeah, he's got to be in. It's far too wet to be going around on slicks. They won't even be able to keep it on the track, as we've already seen.
A few in chat saying, great call from Vettel. What a call, says Javier as well. Absolutely. This could well be. Chances where he was getting through anyway. 28.636. That should be him through, because the track is just getting considerably wetter. And Kimi Raikkonen only just going out on the Inters. He could be in trouble. Although I say that, no, because it's pretty level playing field for everybody else now, isn't it? So he might be all right.
Yeah, this is becoming a scrap of who stays in. And this is where it's really going to show who the skilled drivers are in the midfield. Because I'm not sure about all, because it's been so long since we've had proper wet sessions, all the guys in the middle, apart from Verstappen, Hamilton, and Stroll, we haven't really seen who excels in the wet.
That's a great point. That's a very good point. I'm trying to think. Italy was the last one last year, wasn't it? Proper wet all the way through session. And before that, I'm trying to think when the last one was. So that's a really good point. There's been nothing this year, really. So apparently, according to Verstappen's team radio, the rain is going to get heavier. So this is it. This is now. Yeah. This matters. This matters.
Whoever gets their current lap wrong is having a bad day.
Apparently, Ted just reported in the pit lane on Sky that it is chucking it down, as we say up here in North. Absolutely chucking it down in, stop the accents, in Hungary right now. So, yes, it does look very wet coming into that third sector. And I'm just looking at the lap times now as they come through. They are Verstappen 6 down in the first, 6/10 down on Vettel in the first sector, but you'd expect Red Bull to be quite slow there anyway. Hamilton 4/10 down, so he looks like second fastest at the moment. But Magnussen very wide out that final corner. It's absolutely throwing it down, Jonty. Proper rain.
Yeah, this is what we want. It's been so long. We've all missed the rain, just like most of us in Britain have been missing the rain desperately for the last 5 weeks.
I was going to say, if they want to send it our way, that would be absolutely brilliant. And Hamilton very wide in that final corner as well. The yellow flags according to the timing screens. Out on track. So what has happened? It is, look at that wet weather. And it's Sorokin having a bit of a moment. Or is it Stroll? It's probably Stroll. It is Stroll. Yeah. Usually pretty good in the wet, as we saw in Monza, but got it all wrong there. Sainz currently P2, Verstappen only P3. He's just got it on the curb there, Stroll, and that's in the wall, and it's damaged the car as well. Session over for Stroll. Even if he gets in and gets the front wing replaced, he's not going to get out in decent condition to set his time. So I think we've lost Lance Stroll. Hamilton, well, I'm just waiting for all this to shake out now because I think we're about to find out who is through and who is out. At the moment, we're losing Stroll, Hülkenberg, Raikkonen, Ericsson and Ricciardo. In fact, Ricciardo's completed his lap, so we are losing Ricciardo. Ericsson goes P12. I think we've lost Raikkonen and Ricciardo. Surely not.
Yeah.
What a lap from Kimi.
This is crazy.
It's absolutely teaming it down, and he's just gone 8th. 4.1 off his teammate, but he's got through. Wow.
Yeah.
Kimi's on it this weekend, everybody. Kimi is on it. So, Alonso P11, Hamilton tiptoeing round. I think that is session done, and unless it dries out, we have lost Alonso, Ricciardo, Ericsson, Hülkenberg, and Stroll. Carlos Sainz P2, Gasly P5. I'm loving this, Jonty. This is what we want.
This whole qualifying session is like the Twitter for Force India last night. Just everyone sitting around going, what the hell is happening? Raikkonen really wants it, though. He is, no pun intended, hungry for this. To pull out laps like that. Yeah, he's on it.
I think we've lost. I can't believe we've lost Daniel Ricciardo. We were saying before the session, if you're just joining us, we were saying before the session, with the rain coming in, you would reckon, really, that Red Bull would be the team to beat. And he's P13, so unless we suddenly get somebody out there with a hairdryer and the sun on track, need more than a hairdryer looking at that, it's game over. And I've got a horrible feeling, because of the unique way that Formula One works these days, Jonty, that this session is going to get stopped in a minute.
I don't think it's quite there yet. But what it is, it's at that point where the Inters aren't quick anymore. And it's affected everyone from Bottas down. So at this point, I'd say it's quite possible someone could come in and go full wets and still get in. Because it's now just a bit too wet for the Inters to handle.
Good spot, everybody in chat. Ericsson and Magnussen pitting for wets. Race control have just disabled DRS, really.
Only just now.
just this very second. It is really hammering it down that pit straight. The rest of the track is wet, but it's not that wet. When I made the red flag call, it was when we were looking at the pit straight, and it was soaking, absolutely soaking. So
you got to look at how they've been crawling around the final turns. Certainly around the last corner, where they showed the replay of Hamilton. He couldn't touch the throttle for so long. Someone on full wets will be able to banzai around there and save at least a second and a half.
It's a fair point. That sounds like a job for a Verstappen or a Hamilton. Yeah. Or a Ricciardo, I would have thought. This is why I'm so surprised. But what? We've still got over 5 minutes left of the session. Anything could happen yet in terms of the weather. It doesn't look like it's going to clear up, but I mean, we'll talk about it a bit more now. What a bizarre session so far for Daniel Ricciardo. I mean, softs in the first session just snuck through. He's now looking like he's going to fall out unless there's a miracle and the track dries out. It's bizarre.
I don't understand what Red Bull are doing. Because surely, yes, they will deal with a lot of feedback from Ricardo about the state of the track. I don't know if Verstappen's feedback is, skewing their observation of it a little bit because he's so much better in the wet. But you'd think they would be saying, no, you've got to go on these tyres because otherwise you're out. There's at some point the team's got to say to the driver, don't care what your feedback is, we can see it quite plain as day in the data.
Yeah, our information is you need to be on this tyre or you need to be going out now. I mean, people were laughing when Vettel went out on the Inters at the start of this session. It was inspired choice, 2.1 seconds quicker than his nearest challenger, that was Carlos Sainz. Verstappen 2.5 seconds back, Hamilton 2.6. I mean, that was what a call from Ferrari, and all the criticism they get as well for strategy calls. That's brilliant calling from them. And then you compare that to Red Bull, who are usually, you'd have to say, pretty on point with strategy, have completely thrown it away.
Yeah, I genuinely don't understand what's going on. They're usually, like you say, so good on those strategy calls. And with Ricciardo, they've got it wrong from the second the green flag dropped in Q1.
Well, Danny Rick's going out on the wets, but too little too late. Surely.
No. Yeah, I mean, we've got, at the very most, someone who does a spectacular lap might be able to jump up to around 8th or 9th. But anything above that's way out of reach. Someone could do something spectacular and get through to Q3, but only just.
Well, the thing is, I mean, again, sticking with Ricciardo, he's gone on the wets. He's not a couple of tenths off Q3. He's 3.2 seconds off Q3. That's not something you can turn around with a banzai final corner or a little bit earlier on the throttle out of the chicane. He's going to need a miracle. And Ericsson crossed the line 39.9, which is 6 seconds slower than Grosjean in 10th. And I know, obviously, you'd expect Ericsson and Sauber to be a bit slower anyway, but Ricciardo's not going to find that kind of time.
No, it really isn't. This is crazy.
Alonso being asked if he wants a new set of inters or a set of wets. He's just said, we need to go to the garage, look at the conditions. Yeah. I think he's pretty much conceded this one. He's not a daft man. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I still don't think it's red flag conditions. It's not like there's acres of standing water in dangerous places. It's just very wet.
People say to me, why are you so keen on Alonso? Why do you not want to lose Fernando Alonso? His last message to the team, you could put a rocket ship on this and it would make no difference. Basically saying that it doesn't matter what we put on this car, we're not going to get through in this session because of the rain, but it's the way he does it. That is why I love Fernando Alonso. Now, didn't like him back in the day when I was a Schumacher fan, but Alonso now.
No, is that because he ended Chewy's run?
Yeah, I hated him for it. I loathed him properly every time he spun or crashed, which wasn't very often. I'd be cheering like I keep saying, proper Schumacher fanboy. I'm not even gonna go there. It was bad at times.
I'm just looking at the official live timing board and nothing is changing.
Nice.
Everything is yellow sectors. No one's going faster at all.
I'm just watching for Ricciardo to come through that middle sector. So Haas is telling Grosjean it's going to keep raining. Ricciardo a 35 flat in the middle sector, which actually is quicker than Grosjean's middle sector in 10th. Have I read that right? Grosjean 39.0. Ricciardo a 35 flat. That can't be right.
No.
No,
he can't have pulled full 4 seconds in one sector. Oh, that middle sector looks dry.
Ricciardo across the line, completing this lap. 38 something. It's gone 38-1. There we go. 38-1 from Ricciardo. Yeah, he's that's it. Game over. I think that's it. 12 seconds to go now. That is the end of the session. We have lost Lance Stroll, who had that spin, of course, and lost his front wing. Marcus Ericsson as well, although he's out there trying. We've lost Ricciardo, Hulkenberg, and really frustratingly and actually quite disappointingly, we've lost Fernando Alonso as well, because he looked at one point as though he was going to go through, and that lap from Kimi Raikkonen toppled him.
Yeah, a lot of the teams got caught napping here. This could have been a very, very surprising grid. All we needed was for even just 4 cars from the midfield to copy Ferrari and stick the Inters on, and things would have been very, very interesting.
Well, there has been an element of strategy look and great call as well, and timing and all of that. I know that, and the weather's playing its part, but massive kudos to Toro Rosso. Gasly P5 and Hartley P7. Fantastic news.
Oh, yeah, brilliant for them. And then they just got the call right. It's funny to think how much of this is not down to the performance of the car, and it's just about getting the timing right, being on track, on the right tyre, nothing else.
I think Ricciardo is about to jump Nico Hulkenberg. He has. Ricciardo finding time. Goes P12, but that is it. It's not going to make a huge difference to his day, but he's gained a position. It's something to commentate on, Jonty. Enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, because you got to think, looking at the official timing boards, it's a 33.6 to get through to Q3. No one's doing that. I thought for a while they could have been able to do it just at that changeover period between inters and wets, but they just waited too long.
Oh, another crazy session. Not quite as crazy as the first session, but let's do a bit of an update as to who is where. Sebastian Vettel, timing perfect, is comfortably through with a 1:28.6. Sainz 2.1 seconds back in second place. Verstappen in third. Hamilton fourth. Gasly, as I just said there, in P5. Brilliant for him and Toro Rosso. Bottas sixth. Hartley seventh. Raikkonen, what a lap. I can't get over that. I thought he was out in P8. Kevin Magnussen ninth and Romain Grosjean 10th. We have lost Alonso, Ricciardo, Hulkenberg, Ericsson and Stroll, and they join Van Dorn, Leclerc, Ocon, Perez and Sorokin as... well, they're taking an early bath, but I think they've been, damp out there anyway, haven't they? So, yeah, I mean, what now? It looks as though the rain is going to be sticking around for Q3. I hope that the FIA and whatnot don't decide to just postpone the session for a few minutes and see if it clears up like they sometimes like to. I hope it stays wet, because the likes of Sainz and Gasly could spring, not a pole position surprise, but could spring a bit of a surprise towards the top 3 rows.
Yeah, he is one driver that I do remember showing his merits in the wet in F2. He dominated some races and was very similar to Verstappen's performance in Brazil 2016, when he just decided he was going to overtake everyone. It's still going to be an interesting session, because everyone's on a level playing field. Everyone's going to be on wets. Yes, this does lean very much in Hamilton's favour. We know how good he can be in the wet. But watch out for Verstappen and Vettel. They're also both very, very skilled on wet tracks. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a weekend to remember so far for Mercedes, but the thing is, with the rain, you can't really rule Hamilton out as well, can you? And the way that lap from Raikkonen, if he gets it all nailed in Q3, he's a threat to that pole position as well. It's going to get tasty this session, but Vettel... it's going to come down to timing, and obviously if the rain stops mid-session, last across the line could well be on pole.
Well, that's the thing. It's again so much down to the weather, because depending on how hard and how long the rain goes for, it's going to be one or the other, first over the line or last over the line.
Just listening to Perez and Ocon get an interview. Both Perez looks furious and very disappointed. Ocon's grinning his backside off, so he's obviously quite happy with P18.
Yeah, well, he's probably sitting thinking, look what you've done. Got nothing to do with me. I'm going to run up.
He's probably actually quite excited about being able to sit down and watch the rest of the session, seeing as it's so crazy at the moment. Maybe that's... I doubt it. He'd much rather be out there racing, I'm sure. But take a few of your comments as we do in between sessions, as my stream decides to start to lag. I hope nobody's suffering lag this week. I've sorted out the settings, and I think as well, at the second attempt, or the third attempt, managed to set it up so that you can rewind and pause the stream now. It was something that I thought I changed last week, but according to YouTube, I hadn't. I definitely clicked the button, but they obviously didn't save it. So apologies for that last week, but you can now do that. Just going to have a look through some of your comments. Come on, Verstappen. Thanks, guys. No worries at all. I do this because it's great to get some live interaction for you guys, but also because based on the watch along we did in the race last week, Jonty, I absolutely love this. It's so much fun just to stand there and talk about Formula One.
Yeah, it really is, especially when we've been given something to actually talk about as well. I don't think we've shut up since the green flag went.
Ocon will be tuning into the F1 word. That'd be nice. I doubt it, but that'd be nice. What a crazy session. Well done, Toro Rosso. Ocon said he had a brakes problem. Good spot there, Jack. Thank you very much for that one. So I'll look into that afterwards for the qualifying report. Leclerc for guest on F1 word. Yeah, I'll try. That's a no. Can this weather be present tomorrow? Are we expecting this rain tomorrow, John? I know you like to keep on top of your weather forecasts, but I think I've heard it's going to be quite hot and dry.
Yeah, which is, again, interesting because the differences that we had between all the practice sessions and the qualifying, no one's going to be certain about the tyres because the temperature is going to be completely different for the race.
It doesn't sound exciting when you say a normal dry and hot race, but you've got the tyre degradation problems that we saw in Austria, could rear their head. It's not too hard on tyres as far as I know. I mean, it's not particularly gentle on them, but the heat isn't going to help there. But also, all this rain washes all the rubber away from practice. So when they go to the track tomorrow, it's going to be green at the start. I know we've got some F2 running and whatnot, but it's not going to be as rubbered in as they'd like. So it could throw in a couple of really interesting variables tomorrow for the Grand Prix.
Yeah, exactly. This is just an extension of today. Yes, it'll be dry, but things are just going to be so different. And we could be looking at potential two stoppers because we've got that gap in the compounds.
Eric, one of the ones that interacts quite a lot with us on Twitter, actually. Hello, great to see you in the stream, mate. Says, do you figure there is something wrong with Ricciardo's car because that was too slow? What do you think on that, John? I mean, it could be something that gets explained soon, but that was really slow, wasn't it?
It really doesn't look like a car issue. If we look at everyone else, what they were doing with the tyres when they were going out, it really does just look like a massive mistake from Red Bull. I mean, it could be wrong. There could be something wrong with the energy store. We know in FP3, Max was having a little bit of trouble getting the charge into the battery to use for a fast run. Whether Ricciardo's having the same issue, I don't know. It hasn't been announced. But it really did just look like they got it completely wrong.
Here we go then for not FP3, for Q3. I'm so confused. For Q3, they're all going out queuing at the end of the pit lane very quickly before they start their laps once again. All the live timing you're seeing on your screen now is provided by the very generous folks over at Planet F1. I use them a lot, as I said last week, for source material from a news roundups, and they're a great site, straight to the point. So links in the description. Do go and check them out, and check them out on Twitter as well. Thank you very much to them for that. Hartley was the first man out, but this is everybody on wets, and except Kimi. Apparently Kimi on the Inters.
Yeah, and it's not going to be drying. It's still coming down.
Well, it's quite clear around the other side of the circuit as they come towards the chicane. In fact, it looks Hartley and Verstappen scrapping like it's a race. But it's fairly dry, damp, around the other end of the... Yeah, so you've got a really wet start, finish straight and first sector. You've then got a very wet last sector, and the middle sector looks fairly dry in comparison. So expect Raikkonen to be super quick in that. It's just updated. It is on the wet. Sorry, it has just updated. It did say Inter's on the live timer, but he is on the wet. So I was going to say he could be quite quick in that middle sector, but Verstappen's first man to go for a lap. So Who are we reckoning, Jonty?
It's tricky. Verstappen's certainly in with a shot. You see, this is, again, coming down to not where you can gain the most time, where you're going to lose the least. Because obviously half the track is perfect for inters, half of the track is far too wet for inters. You're going to lose more on the inter bit or the wet bit. I don't know.
It's going to be so close, isn't it? It really is. I think Verstappen's in with a very good... I still think Vettel possibly will just edge this, but I don't want to call it. I think Max has got a great shot. I'd love to see him get pole as well. It's kind of the one thing he hasn't got really now, isn't it? Is that pole position. So get that sorted. It'd be brilliant. He's coming through now. That first sector, 33.4. Obviously purple because he's first one to go through and set a time. So looking... So that's a pretty good time, 33.4 for wet conditions, not too bad. Just watching as well, we've got Vettel out there, obviously, Sainz as well. If anybody's got Sainz in their fantasy team, by the way, you are on for a very good weekend, potentially. I wish I'd signed him, but never mind. He's looking good, Sainz. He was, like you say, fairly good in the wet before, so hopefully... we'll get a nice surprise from him. It'd be great to see him. Gasly, of course, he's doing pretty well, but Hamilton is purple in the first sector, 33.3. Verstappen purple in the middle on a 35.5. Obviously, the first man through there, so he's always going to be. But Hamilton, actually the quickest man out there at the minute, Jonty.
Yeah, well, we expected him to do well. Just for reference, the cut-off time for Q2 was a 33.6 from Grosjean, I believe. So that's what we're aiming at.
It's going to be close. Verstappen made a little bit of a mistake there, went very deep into the corner, but he's going to come across the line and does a 1:38.923. Hartley moves into second place on a 30. He doesn't anymore because Bottas has gone quickest, but Hartley a 39.8. He's P3. Bottas goes fastest, 37.6. Wow, considerably quicker. Hamilton just quicker than Bottas on a 37.5. So this is very close. I'm waiting to see those Ferraris go through because that really is going to be where you get our first proper reference. Vettel, not quickest at the moment. Whoa, big twitch on the exit there. Comes across the line. Only P4 for Sebastian Vettel. 2 seconds off the pace of Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen did make a mistake, but it is Kimi Raikkonen, the man on the move at the moment. Quickest in the first, up in the second as well. This is going to be... Raikkonen's got a shot here. Do not bin this, Kimi. Do not bin this in the third sector because he's got a great chance. People will go wild if he gets pole, Jonty. They're going to go crazy for Kimi.
Yeah, and so they should. It's about time that we saw him just with the number one next to his name for anything.
Raikkonen across the line, only goes P3, not a million miles away from pole, but Hamilton is on the move again. Purple in the first sector on a 32.8. Well, either it's drying out or the track is just generally getting quicker. Verstappen twitching all over the place from the overhead shot there, coming through that really quite wide through that penultimate corner. Verstappen, it's not odd really. A lot of people do that, but not generally in the wet. They like to stay on line, but he's coming through the final corner now. Really tiptoeing. There's just so much water in that final sector. Twitching again, coming across the line. Hamilton flying. Verstappen only goes P4, 38 flat. But Lewis Hamilton absolutely on it. 35.5 in the middle, having already done a 32.8. And through the final sector now, he manages to do a 28.2, which is a 36.6, a second quicker than Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah, and you've got to shows you how much slower the track is than Q2. Current pole time, 3 seconds slower than the P10 cutoff.
Well, at the moment, Ferrari have no answer for Mercedes, in particular Lewis Hamilton. He's a second quicker than Bottas, a second quicker than Vettel, and 1.1 quicker than Kimi. Pierre Gasly, P5, by the way, great lap, 1.3 off the pace. So there's still time to be found out there from Ferrari, quite clearly. Raikkonen all over the place. I can't see it. It looks like it's still raining, but I think it is trying to ease off. It's dry around the other end of the circuit, so it could well change. Raikkonen goes P2. He is on the front row, 7/10 off Lewis Hamilton. So at the moment, we've got Hamilton and Raikkonen on that front row. This, if it stays like this, Jonty, is a big save for Mercedes this weekend.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if they could see this weather coming and decide to go maybe with a balanced setup between wet and dry. Who knows? Surely you got to set up for the race. But being Hungary, overtaking is difficult.
Yes, fair point. I mean, it'd be a big gamble, wouldn't it? But like you say, they've got the pace in the straight line anyway, so a bit more downforce might be worth it, and it'll set them up nicely. Bottas, I think, is about to go. P2 went purple in that middle sector. He's coming across the line and does a 37 flat, 4/10 off his teammate, 3/10 up the road from Kimi. Sebastian Vettel needs to find some time because he is comfortably at the moment the slowest of the top 3 or top 4 on the grid, which is surprising. But Pierre Gasly looking brilliant at the minute in P5.
Yeah, but the other thing to note, you're looking at the track, there are some lines starting to appear where it's not wet. You know, the cars are clearing the water. If someone's able to stick a good lap in on the inters, there could be a few surprises.
If teams aren't expecting too much rain tomorrow, surely they're going to come in now and put a fresh set of wets on. Or is it better to stay out and just keep churning the laps in, keep the heat in the tyres, and keep clearing that water? As Kimi goes fastest, 36.1. Ferrari back in the game.
Yeah, you see, it's getting quicker and quicker. If someone dives in, goes out on inters, and just keep lapping until right at the end when you can go for it.
I'm going to try and keep an eye on this and who is where on track the best I can, because I think last across the line, particularly out of those top sort of the 2 Ferraris, 2 Mercedes and that Red Bull of Verstappen, it's going to come right down to last across the line for pole. But also, in terms of the rest of your top 10, watch Carlos Sainz and Pierre Gasly. There is nothing between them, and they could be on for a huge surprise result. I mean, at the minute, we have Sainz and Gasly both ahead of Verstappen. So we could be in for a bit of a shock here from Carlos Sainz. He's not a million miles off pole either, really. I mean, 1.7 seconds sounds a lot, but in terms of the midfield and the gap that there usually is, that is pretty close. And he's actually gone through that middle sector only 2/10 down on Kimi Räikkönen. So that track is getting quicker, or Sainz has found some kind of rocket engine or some special magic tyres.
The track's definitely getting quicker. You can see it.
Sainz across the line goes P3. Half a second off pole, a 10th behind Hamilton. Räikkönen pole, Sainz 3rd, Gasly 6th. I could take that quite happily.
Oh, this has got a sting in its tail. I'm sure of it.
Just remember I said Sainz P3 because the way things tend to go in Formula 1, we get sessions like this, he may end up 10th. Because this is literally going right down to the wire. We've got just under 2.5 minutes to go. This is going to be so tense right at the end. This is, Kimi at the moment looks very good for pole. Half a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton. Through that first sector comes Vettel. Half a second down. He cannot find a pace, Jonty.
That's ridiculous. That's a huge amount of time to be losing.
He'll get another run, but he's not really shown anything so far in Q3 that tells me that even with another run, he'll be able to do it. But famous last words.
I'm trying to decide who's going to take that gamble and just throw it out on inters. Magnussen?
It doesn't look like anybody at the moment, but there's a few. Looks like everybody on wets. Vettel's still half a second down in the middle. For me, he was nailed on for pole this weekend. And then for the second weekend in a row, I guess you could say, as he said, we didn't need the rain. That's what he said after Germany. He's probably going to say the same after this.
Yeah, I mean, he's good in the rain, but it certainly doesn't seem to like him or bring him any luck.
Coming through the final corner now, and across the line goes Sebastian Vettel on a 1:36.9, only P4 and 7.5 tenths off his teammate. Last run for Vettel, but that does move him ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who is currently P5, but Carlos Sainz still P3. Verstappen even further down, 1.9, but he's got traffic as well, which isn't helping. He's going to have to wait for another run, I think. Will he get around for another run?
Amazing lap from Sainz. Absolutely amazing.
I'm watching him. I'm going to watch him very closely. I don't think we're talking pole, but if he can get that Renault on the front row. Oh, and Verstappen slowing down to start another lap, impeding, you could argue, Romain Grosjean there. That they tend to be a bit more lenient in the wet, but I wonder if the stewards might have a little look at that after the session and maybe just a slap on the wrist, because that really did cost Grosjean. He was on a good lap as well, was Grosjean. 33.7, 37.1.
Yeah, he was on to move up then.
Yeah. I hope they don't take any action against that. Vettel personal best in the first, comes through the middle sector. His personal best again. I think Vettel might just prove us wrong a little bit here. I don't think it's going to be pole. I can't see as Hamilton goes purple in the first and Bottas purple in the middle. The checkered flag is out. These are the final laps of qualifying here. So this is anybody's game. I don't think Sebastian Vettel is going to do it. He comes across the line. It's a 36.2, a tenth off his teammate. He goes second, but the Mercedes are flying and Bottas goes across the line on a 35.9 and is quicker still. What can Lewis Hamilton do? He's absolutely flying as well. He was purple in the first, but he's well down in the middle, so there might have been something happen there. Watching Carlos Sainz as well. At the minute, Bottas is on provisional pole position. Round that final corner comes Lewis Hamilton to the line. Does take pole position. I think you're watching the timing screens, John. I'm too busy watching TV. But at the minute, we have got an all Mercedes front row. Hamilton on pole. Bottas is second. Raikkonen third. Vettel only fourth. What can the rest of the field do? Gasly across the line does not improve. Stays a brilliant P6. Anybody else? Anybody else want to put a lap in? Come on, Sainz. Surprise us all. I think that looks like it's it.
One last flyer. That'd be great.
Grosjean 40.5. Hamilton is on pole. That is it. Do you know, after what we saw this morning, nobody would have convinced me that Lewis Hamilton was going to be on pole today. Certainly not a Mercedes front row.
Not at all. I would never have called that.
I mean,
they have pulled something magical out there to rescue the weekend.
I would say, and I'm probably tempting fate of getting told off by a few fanboys now, but they've done it today in wet conditions where you would expect Hamilton to be quicker, but on race pace in the first 3 practice sessions and whatnot, Mercedes still look like the third fastest car, so they're going to have a real job on their hands to try and turn this into a win tomorrow. But when you look at the result as a whole, the biggest surprise today, forget Sainz, forget Gasly, forget Hamilton on pole, Max Verstappen only P7.
Yeah, I don't know how. Maybe there is something in that possible Red Bull issue because him and Ricciardo been so slow. I honestly just thought Red Bull got it wrong for a change. But he should have way more pace than that.
I'm surprised, really stunned by Red Bull in this session. As soon as the rain fell, like I keep saying, I thought that was it. I thought Verstappen would have it, or Ricciardo. I never thought Mercedes would do it. And I'll come to chat in a moment for some reaction. I've seen a few not very happy. Some saying it's boring, yet another Mercedes front row. Mercedes front rows do get a little bit dull after years and years of domination, but if it's after a session like that, I refuse to say it's boring.
Yeah, that was incredible. Got nothing but respect for them after the performance that both cars were doing in FP3 and to some extent FP1 and 2 as well. They certainly weren't quick. That was a stunning performance by the Mercedes team.
I mean, I thought Bottas had got it and then Hamilton was flying around. Raikkonen again though, couldn't deliver pole, but P3. So, it's not easy to overtake around the Hungaroring, as we know, but strategy is going to be key. And Ferrari and Red Bull, in dry conditions so far, have been quicker than Mercedes. So really, without tempting a really dull race, all Ferrari have got to do is follow those Mercedes and then go for the undercut or go for the overcut, as we've seen a few times this season.
Yeah, and with the gap in the compounds, the undercut is going to be very, very powerful.
They're quick off the line as well, aren't they, this year, Ferrari?
Yeah, very much so. But there is another thing to think about now, is how the regulations work, because it's going to be a dry race. What do people start on?
Well, this is it. All the fastest times in Q2 were all on wet tyres, weren't they, or inters?
Yeah, they're all inters.
So the whole grid has got a free choice of tyres for the start of the race tomorrow, which means you could see Ferrari splitting the strategy.
I'll call it now, and I'll say you'll see both Mercedes and Ferrari splitting the strategy.
That's a great. Didn't even think about it then, but that's a really good point, Jonty. Because obviously now, usually strategy is quite key, and we discuss it after qualifying anyway, and we all do on social media. But now we literally have no idea who starts on what tyre, because they can rock up to the grid tomorrow with whatever they want bolted on, and that's going to make strategists' evening today a little bit tougher than it would normally. So it's going to be really fascinating tomorrow in the race, because if it's hot as well, does anybody want to start on those ultra soft tyres, because they're going to degrade really quickly? So I could see a lot of the grid starting on a soft tomorrow.
Yeah, very much so.
Particularly Alonso down.
Yeah, maybe even someone really just throwing caution to the wind, start on the medium, go sort of 85% into the race, and then slap the ultras on at the end. Because the other thing is, they can run around to the grid on anything they like. Their race start tyres usually come out on a trolley. So we literally won't know. It could be completely secret until they take the covers off, unless we're made aware of it by the graphics, the FIA, whoever.
In the chat, I was going to mention about this anyway for Ricciardo's strategy for tomorrow, but Guardian of the Blind has said, will we see mediums? And Henry has said Ricciardo on mediums. That would have worked out pretty well for him in Germany had he not had his mechanical issues. So he's a lot higher up the grid. So mediums are a bigger gamble, aren't they, from 12th on the grid? But it's possible if they want to really run long.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. You got to think he's going to be he's already going to be that much quicker than 7 cars in front of him. And he's just got the front row to worry about. If he can go a significant portion in, so that he can just do one stop and last session on ultras, it could work. The other thing we need to see is who's got what tyres left. Hopefully, we will see a lot of people with various tyres to choose from, nice and fresh and new, because they haven't been used in quali.
It's a big weekend for Ferrari, obviously. So there's going to be a lot of disappointment today over not getting that front row lockout. But I still think my gut right now is telling me, on what we've seen so far, they're still sitting pretty and could well be favourites tomorrow. In fact, I think they will be favourites tomorrow. But what's this season told us? How many times have we said, Jonty, that such and such will be a favourite going into this race, and it's gone completely the other way? We just don't. The truth is, we don't know, do we?
No, we really don't. So Mercedes shouldn't have stood a chance in that qualifying session, wet or dry. They just called it exactly right. I do get the feeling tomorrow is going to be very much which strategist can make it work the best. But even then, I think it's going to be quite interesting. And I don't usually think any Hungarian race is going to be good. They sometimes do turn out to be good, but it's not really known for it. So this could be very, very interesting. Not exciting, but interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? Don't expect, unless we get mixed conditions again, don't expect anything as dramatic as Germany or as exciting as Silverstone or Austria. It's one of those races that really gives you a lot to think about during the Grand Prix, and a lot of strategy comes into play. And I think, like you say, interesting is the best way to describe Hungary the majority of the time. A couple of people asking in chat what the weather's going to be like tomorrow. I've seen that it's going to be dry. I don't know if, obviously, we'll keep an eye and we'll let you know over on Twitter. So make sure you follow me and Jonty over there, and we'll let you know what the weather report is. Have you seen anything against that, Jonty?
No, I've been looking. It looks to be quite warm, very dry.
So as I said earlier, then quite a little bit of a variable as well. And a couple of you asking as well about Verstappen, is he under investigation? I've seen nothing to say he's under investigation for that moment with Grosjean. So it would be harsh because of the wet weather, I would say, but it's impeding. So I guess we're going to see. I'll keep an eye on that before I do the qualify report as well a little bit later on today. There will be a race watch along tomorrow for those asking as well. So we'll be on air. We'll be live from about 1:30ish tomorrow. So for the pre-race, the watch along and everything like that. And provided he gets back from wherever he is, but in time on Sunday, we will be joined once again, second week in a row, by Chamber tomorrow. And I know, Jonty, you're excited about that because I absolutely loved not that I don't anyway, but the race debrief on Sunday last week just seemed to be so much better. Almost, dare I say, another level. It just felt better and I enjoyed it a lot more.
It was certainly enjoyable. He's got a great knowledge of not just F1, but certainly the technicalities around F1 and how the strategies work. So it was good to get that new input. And he's a funny guy.
He is, yeah. He's a very dry sense of humour, so he'll be with us as well. Are you joining me tomorrow for the watch along, Jonty?
I can't say for certain.
Okay.
With the delay issue and what have
Yeah.
you, and I've got a couple of things going on because my cat's ill.
Okay. Oh, I'll talk to you after the stream about that. But I think we'll leave it there, mate, because multiple reasons. One, I need to go off and record a qualifying report, and two, I've turned all the fans off and I'm absolutely boiling because it's not getting any cooler here. We had thunderstorms yesterday. Don't want to rub it in, but it's made no difference whatsoever. So I think we're going to leave the stream there. Really appreciate you coming along, mate. It was good fun and a crazy session, and hopefully we're going to get a nice dramatic race tomorrow as well.
Yeah, I've got a feeling it'll all be decided, either turn one or pit stop one, but it will still be very interesting to watch.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be absolutely brilliant, mate. But thank you for joining me. I'll talk to you a little bit later on as well about tomorrow. So thank you once again.
Yeah. See you, everyone.
Talk to you later, mate. Bye-bye. That is, again, thank you very much to Jonty for joining us, for absolutely loving these watch-alongs. So much fun to do. There's no real plan to them. We just have a bit of a laugh. But if you are just tuning in, I'm just about to finish, but it is Lewis Hamilton on pole tomorrow ahead of teammate Valtteri Bottas with the two Ferraris in behind and some big surprises as well. Carlos Sainz qualifying well and both Toro Rossos inside that top 10. Brilliant to see. We are potentially set up for a very exciting race tomorrow. Maybe not exciting, probably interesting, as Jonty was saying a little bit earlier, but very much looking forward to it. I will be back a little bit later with a recorded qualifying report. I'm not going to put a specific time on it because it's all going to come down to how slow the PC decides to run in this heat. I try and get it up by 7 p.m, but it might be a little bit later. It could be a little bit earlier, so keep an eye on your sub boxes. If you are tuning in for the first time, don't forget to give this video a like and also to subscribe as well, because there's so much coming up over this weekend and over the summer break as well. We've got you covered here on the F1 Word, as we always try to do. I will be back after today's qualifying report at around 1:30 p.m. tomorrow. For the 1:30, yes, 2:10 kickoff if you like. So yeah, 1:30 tomorrow for the race watch along, and then the race debrief will be live around about 5 with me, John T, and Chamber once again. In the meantime, you can follow me on social media, links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and to Discord. Make sure you join us over there. It's chaos, but it's brilliant. All the links to those are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.